Thailand or the Philippines? Going on vacation or even emigrating? Which of the two countries is better suited and why? Thailand, yeah. You probably know about it. There's so much information out there. But what? The Philippines? I'm Götz and I'm almost 60 now. I planned my emigration 15 years ago. Then 10 years ago I made one of the best decisions of my life and emigrated to the Philippines. And now you're sitting there thinking, why not Thailand, Götz? So grab a coffee or whatever you like and give me 30 minutes of your time. Let me explain the points I considered back then and which are still valid, the ones that made the difference for me and my today for you too, between living in Thailand or in the Philippines. It's not just about the thickness of your wallet, but also about the love of your life, the food, the infrastructure and security and so on. First off, you want a country where your pension will go a long way. So let's talk about money. What are the living costs in Thailand compared to the Philippines? Thankfully, there are statistical comparison websites on the internet, which makes the job easier. I chose Numbeo for its clear layout. And you can immediately see that the cost of living in the Philippines is about 10% lower than in Thailand. Take rent, for example. A condo in the affluent parts of Manila can cost over $2,000 a month. However, in the provinces of the Philippines, you can find a simple 3 to 4 room stone and concrete house with 100 square meter living space, beach proximity included, starting at around $250. In Thailand, rent prices are about 30% higher, with rents in Bangkok averaging 14% more than in Manila. But you should also know that in many parts of Thailand, apartments or houses are more modernly furnished and built than in the Philippines. In Thailand, you definitely get better living quality for the same money. Transportation. Both countries have affordable public transportation in the big cities. In the countryside, there are buses and transport infrastructure, or at least motorcycle taxis. Walking is also an option, but not so practical in over 30-degree heat. So you'll likely end up buying at least a scooter in both countries. And by the way, when I was going on holiday in Thailand, I really never saw anyone riding a bicycle, but that's very common here in the Philippines. But if you go for a scooter, they are affordable in both the Philippines and Thailand. Transportation isn't a problem in either country, but I'll talk more about infrastructure in a bit. One point for Thailand is that it's much easier, faster and cheaper for Europeans to fly to Bangkok than to Manila. From Germany, for example, it's about a 13-hour flight to Bangkok, while it takes at least 16 hours to Manila. On the other hand, Thailand is quite a trek for Americans, averaging 17 to 24 hours of flight time. The Philippines, with just 13 to 17 hours, is significantly closer. Another aspect to consider, especially regarding expenses, are the many domestic flights and ferries in the Philippines, since it's made up of many islands. If you don't want to spend time and money on traveling around, Thailand definitely has the edge here. A general rule for both countries: just drive a bit out of the city and you'll find a much cheaper lifestyle. But when it comes to living costs, the Philippines takes the lead, being about 10% cheaper than Thailand, as mentioned earlier. The next point then, nature, because it should be beautiful there too. It's no secret that both Thailand and the Philippines offer breathtaking natural scenery. After all, that's why we all endure such a long flight. You're probably familiar with Thailand, but the Philippines? If you would give Thailand, let's say, an 8 out of 10 on the scale, thinking the Maldives, which you just can't afford, are the 10, what if I tell you that in terms of nature, the Philippines easily score a 10, even with a star? Thailand is great, but those who fly to Thailand for a beach vacation, I ask you, which beaches? Unfortunately, they are only paradise on postcards or Instagram. The reality is different, thanks to mass tourism and limited choice of beaches. The Philippines, I'm just saying 7,100 and many more islands. That means a coastline guaranteed to be longer than your resume. If you don't like a beach, just drive a kilometer further, voila, there's the next. When I took my first vacation here in the Philippines and visited beaches in the province, I was truly breathless. This must be how the Spaniards felt when they landed here in the 16th century. Miles of white sandy beaches, palm trees, crystal clear water, and above all, no people and no hotel complexes, not even bamboo huts. There were surely only a handful of tourists within, I think, 50 or more kilometers. Where in Thailand is that? In Thailand it's impossible, there's only the beach resort mode. But Robinson Crusoe feeling alone on an island? Forget it. Here in the Philippines you get the local fisherman to take you to the small island in the morning and pick you up in the evening. There you are, Robinson, and hope he hasn't forgotten you. So beaches, the Philippines are easily #1 worldwide, I would claim. But what about the jungle and mountains for the hiking enthusiasts among you? Waterfalls and elephants. Thailand is big and diverse. It's about 2 to 3 hours from Bangkok to the sea, but from cities further inland, without a flight it gets tricky. On the other hand, practically all major cities in the Philippines are close to a beach. No coast in the Philippines is further than 300 kilometers away, often much less than 100 kilometers. Plus, the Philippines also have loads of untouched jungle, often with waterfalls and lakes known only to the locals, because most of the Philippines is still not really developed for tourism. The only thing you won't encounter in the Philippines is elephants. Okay, that's 1 point for Thailand, but all the others clearly go to the Philippines, I think. The Philippines are simply much less overrun and therefore often still truly a paradise, while Thailand represents the tourist mecca. But what about culture and nightlife? Of course, when you delve into Southeast Asia, you'll quickly notice Thailand and the Philippines are two completely different worlds. Thailand is Buddhist, with temples that are a fireworks display of gold and splendid colors. The Philippines, on the other hand, are Christian, a former Spanish colony and then under American rule for a long time. Instead of golden pagodas, you'll find centuries-old colonial churches here, several of which are on the UNESCO World Heritage List. Colorful festivals are common in both countries, and the Buddhist ones are very exotic for us Westerners. But I promise you, the festivals with a Christian background in the Philippines can easily keep up in terms of colorfulness. Plus, Filipinos love to celebrate. Practically the whole year there are occasions for religious festivals, many with thousands of participants in colorful costumes and lots of music. Easter is a highlight of the year throughout the country, and Christmas here starts, yes, really, in September. Yes, you heard right, in September. And festivals, the so-called fiestas, are an additional treat. The Filipinos always find a reason to throw a fiesta. Simply put, if there's no fiesta in your neighborhood, just head to the next town, bet there's something going on. But culture also includes the cities themselves, and I have to admit Bangkok has the edge here. There's just more happening than even in Manila. If you're younger, love to party, then you can't get past Thailand. Party hotspots like Phuket or a full moon party, you won't find that in the Philippines. Thailand's culture is shaped by 95% Buddhists, which creates an atmosphere of self-control and respect. The Philippines, 85% are Roman Catholic, and in the south on Mindanao there's a significant Muslim minority. So the religious landscape in the Philippines is characterized by a mix of Catholicism, Protestantism, Islam and indigenous beliefs. And this diversity is then reflected in the many festivals and traditions of the country. Let's move on to the next important topic, infrastructure, like hospitals, roads, health insurance. Thailand's infrastructure clearly surpasses that of the Philippines in these aspects. One point, for instance, is internet. Thailand leads here, as you can get high-speed internet everywhere. In the Philippines, fiber optics are mostly available in urban areas, and even mobile coverage is often underdeveloped in rural areas. If you're a nomadic worker reliant on good and stable internet away from cities, then Thailand is definitely the better place for you. Although the Philippines now has Starlink satellite internet, it's not really an alternative to a fiber optic connection. Roads and traveling. Thailand is a contiguous country. Roads and railways connect everything and work well. Compared to Thailand, getting around in the Philippines is more complicated due to the many scattered islands, requiring the use of multiple modes of transport, including planes and ferries much more often. Plus, there's a joke in the Philippines. There are countries where you drive on the left side of the road. Here in the Philippines, we drive on what is left off the road. For instance, on the island of Cebu, the average speed is just about 30 kilometers per hour. So if you want to drive the 150 kilometers from Cebu city to the south or north of the island, which would take no more than 2 hours in Thailand, here in the Philippines you should plan at least half a day. Regarding power supply, the Philippines are not exactly world class either. Power outages are a part of everyday life, and you often only not notice them because all the big malls and hotels have their own generators to keep operations going. Especially during the hot season, so-called rotating brownouts are the norm in the cities of Cebu and Manila. There's not enough electricity for everyone, so different parts of the city are shut down for hours at a time. But power outages have their charm, especially when you get to an almost untouched island where everything is still natural. Let's talk about healthcare. Thailand leads in Southeast Asia with state-of-the-art facilities and excellent medical care, even attracting patients from abroad. In top clinics, English is spoken, and as a German like me, you can even get German-speaking doctors and nurses. Even in the provinces, everything is top-notch, though communication there will also be in English. In the Philippines, the best care is only found in the major cities, but at least everyone speaks English, so you can communicate with doctors in English even in the deepest province. However, in Thailand it is very clean, well maintained and functions, while maintenance and care of facilities in the Philippines are somewhat lacking. Many doctors' offices in the Philippines are reminiscent of the 60s and 70s, and hospitals in the province often look more like past decades than rather modern clinics of the 2000s. A recent Spanish study listed the crème de la crème of hospitals in Southeast Asia. Thailand swept up with 44 top hospitals, while the Philippines came in with 4. St. Luke's in Manila may be a gem, but Thailand shines with a whole jewelry box full of top clinics. Dental care is one example that illustrates this. Look at the people in Thailand and then pay attention to the teeth of people in the Philippines. The difference couldn't be clearer. What I do like here in the Philippines is the easy appointment scheduling with short waiting times and cost of about $11 per outpatient doctor's visit, plus examinations and medications. However, costs in the Philippines can be higher than in Thailand, as everything here is very Americanized. Additionally, the quality of medical facilities varies greatly. In short, when it comes to healthcare, Thailand waves the victory banner. Access to quality medical care is easier, especially since the country is not made up of an archipelago. In the Philippines, you are faced with significant logistical challenges if you get sick on a smaller island and need to be transported to the next larger hospital on the main island. However, for those who don't mind flying, within a 6-hour flight radius from Manila there are 2 countries, Thailand and Malaysia, whose healthcare systems are rated higher than that of the Philippines. But especially for US military personnel, the best alternative would be the island of Guam, as it's less than 4 hours flight, and United Airlines offers approximately 30 direct flights from Manila to Guam each month. With your TRICARE, you can avail treatment in medical facilities for US military personnel there. I see you're still with me, so I'm gradually making emigration more appealing to you. Let's get to a very important point for every traveler. How long can you stay in the country? What are the visa options? Here I must disappoint you directly, because Thailand is at a disadvantage. Why? As of the end of October 2023, new visa conditions for tourists and expatriates have come into effect. Upon entry, you currently only get a 30-day validity with an extension to a maximum of 90 days. For this, you must prove to have at least 500 euro or 5,000 euro in your account. At least that's what I read on the Thai embassy website. But let's get into more detail. How long can you stay in Thailand without a visa? You can enter by air as often as you like. However, entries by land and sea are limited to a maximum of 2 per calendar year. Additionally, a total stay of 90 days within 6 months must not be exceeded. If you want to stay longer, you must apply for a visa in advance. With a tourist visa, you get a maximum of 60 days per entry plus an additional extension of 30 days, totaling 90 days. With multiple entry, even 6 months. The tourist visa is thus completely sufficient for most overwinterers or vacationers with more time. However, for a single entry, at least 500 euro must be proven in your bank account, and for multiple entry, even 5,000 euro. On the other hand, the tourist visa in the Philippines, a walk in the park. You land, get a 30-day visa on the spot and then have the option to extend your stay up to the duration of 3 years. Just go to immigration every 2 months. It costs just under $90 for each additional 2 months. No proof of income required, not in the Philippines. And after 3 years in the country with a tourist visa, then it's enough to leave overnight and start over the next day. Yes, it's really that simple here. What if you're unmarried and want to emigrate long term? How is it then? For Thailand, the classic retirement visa is the non-immigrant OA for those over 50 years old. You need proof of a pension of at least $1,700 net per month or at least $20,000 in your bank account for the last 3 months. Plus, in the first year, travel health insurance, and from the second year, a recognized Thai long-term health insurance. There are various other visas for expats, but from what I've read, getting those isn't exactly easier. The topic of retirement visas is of little concern in the Philippines. Most are simply tourists and extend every 2 months. So why bother with health insurance, paperwork and queues at the authorities? The only problem is that tourists are not allowed to work. If you want to work in the Philippines, you have to change your visa or you will get in conflict with the law. To prevent this and to, for example, make money on YouTube as an expat like I do, the easiest option in the Philippines is the Special Resident Retirees Visa, SRRV. If you're over 50 like me, but not yet receiving a pension, you can easily get this visa with a security deposit of just $20,000. Okay, there's some paperwork involved, but with it, I have had unlimited residency right for 3 years, including permission to work and various other benefits. And for the SRRV, no proof of health insurance is required like in Thailand. And in the Philippines, besides the simple SRRV, there are other long-term visa options, such as the 13A if you get married. But for those considering this 13A visa, I advise caution, as there is no divorce in the Philippines. Just a side note. Overall, when it comes to visas and long-term stays, the pendulum clearly swings in favor of the Philippines. The visa regulations here are thankfully very tourist and expat friendly compared to Thailand. Okay, and one more clear point in favor of the Philippines is the language. In Thailand, people speak Thai, and this language barrier will cause you significant problems if you weren't born there. Even in tourist areas, just 2 streets behind your hotel, the locals often hardly understand English. You order food in a restaurant from those photo menus, because you can't read it anyway, and yet the food you get is often quite different from what you expected. Unfortunately, such moments are a daily occurrence for foreigners in Thailand. In the Philippines, on the other hand, English is an official language and is taught from primary school. Even in the deepest province, you can get by with English. It's virtually impossible to find Filipinos who don't understand or speak English. Language problems are often more due to Filipinos being too shy to talk to foreigners. Both cultures are extremely friendly, but I must say the Filipinos also have a special warmth. I think language and face play a big role here. As I said, Thailand is Buddhist and most people speak little or no English, which is okay. But you can really feel the difference compared to the Christian and Americanized Philippines. It's just much easier to strike up a conversation with people in the Philippines because they speak the same language. So if you want to stroll around and chat with the locals on your vacation or in your new home, then the Philippines are really the only sensible choice. Now I've been talking for so long, I'm getting hungry. So how's the food situation? The topic of food is, for me and for many of you, not a side issue, but a main event, especially when we're traveling. Many of you will say that Thailand holds the culinary pole position. The Asia's 50 best restaurants list also speaks volumes. Before COVID, between 2013 and 2020, 51 Thai restaurants made it onto this list, while the Philippines were represented with just 4 establishments. I also enjoyed Thai food in Germany and on vacation in Thailand, but only as long as it's not so spicy. Yes, Thai food is definitely the winner, but is it a reason to emigrate to Thailand? Philippine cuisine is a mix of Malay, Chinese, Spanish and American influences, reflected in a variety of regional specialties. The national dish is adobo. Here in the Visayas, lechon, which is pork, is the ultimate. If you like it spicy, you should try Bicol Express, but choy for soup lovers, kinilaw, marinated raw fish salad, and so on. And to be honest, I don't look like someone who can't find anything delicious to eat here in the Philippines, right? In conclusion, after 10 years here in the Philippines, I have discovered many very tasty dishes that were previously unknown to me. Often you just have to dare to order something that looks rather unassuming. Okay, now that you're full and considering coming over, let's plan a vacation. So what's the situation with tourism? Thailand definitely has the upper hand here. Thailand has been a tourist hotspot for decades, while tourism in the Philippines, though promoted, is still somewhat in its infancy. Let me give you some numbers. Pre-COVID in 2019, about 40 million tourists visited Thailand compared to only 8.2 million in the Philippines. That's almost 5 times as many for Thailand. As of November 12, 2023, about 23 million tourists have already visited Thailand again, while as of November 16, 2023, around 4.3 million foreign tourists visited the Philippines. Thailand is far ahead, attracting 5 times as many tourists, and you'll notice that when you're there. In Thailand, there's just more happening. More hustle and bustle, everything is well organized and works. It's different here in the Philippines. In the top tourist spots like Boracay, sure, there's a Western standard, but only up to the second side street behind the hotel. Then you'll find that tourism in the Philippines is like speaking English in Thailand. The further you go into the province, the more unorganized everything is. In Thailand, the backpacker scene is also much more pronounced. It's practically the mecca for backpackers in Southeast Asia, teeming with young people. And they sure know how to party everywhere. In the Philippines, the atmosphere is more family-oriented. Sure, the number of backpackers is also rising here, but in the Philippines, a vacation feels much more like a family trip. The overall mood in the Philippines is just more relaxed. In Thailand, there are bars, clubs, and parties everywhere. Sure, the Philippines has those too, but it's not just as non-stop 24/7. The travel experience in the Philippines is more laid back. Sure, you can find places in Thailand where there's hardly anything going on, but I'm talking about the overall impression when traveling through the country. It's noticeable that we see more local travelers in the Philippines. I don't know if Thais prefer to travel abroad and Filipinos just want to visit their own famous spots. You often see local families on the move more than tourists. On the other hand, there are regions in Thailand where you hardly see any locals. In Phuket or Krabi, for example. It's full of tourists. If you're looking for that, then Thailand is better. If you want something more relaxed and less crowded, then the Philippines scores. And if you like adventure holidays, then definitely. But be cautious, you've heard of things like typhoons, volcanoes, earthquakes. How safe is it there? Compared to the Philippines, Thailand is far less prone to earthquakes. The country is not near the major tectonic plate boundaries, which makes strong earthquakes relatively rare. Smaller quakes can occur, especially in the northern part of the country, but are usually not so destructive. The Philippines, on the other hand, are located on the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region with high activity. Here minor tremors occur almost daily, but they are spread across the entire country, so you hardly notice them. In my 10 years here, I felt less than 5 stronger tremors, all of which were harmless. There are no active volcanoes in Thailand. There are some extinct volcanoes, but volcanic activities are not common in the country. Due to its location on the Pacific Ring of Fire, the Philippines have several active volcanoes, such as Mount Pinatubo, Mayon, and Taal. The last catastrophic eruption was that of Pinatubo in 1991. But since then, all volcanoes in the Philippines have been basically quiet. Thailand is occasionally hit by typhoons, especially in the northern and central regions. However, these storms are usually less intense and less frequent compared to the Philippines. The Philippines are affected by several typhoons each year, as the country lies in the primary typhoon zone, making it one of the regions most affected by typhoons in the world. This sounds much worse than it actually is. The north of the Philippines is more often affected by typhoons than the south. Here in the Visayas, they often bring a lot of rain, but not so much strong wind. Generally, the Pacific coasts are more affected than the interior. I myself experienced Typhoon Odette here in Cebu City at the end of 2021, a Category 5 typhoon, and the big city of Cebu was without power for 1 month. But honestly, I stayed here at home the whole time. It was just warm, but life went on. So if you are considering the Philippines but are now scared, then my secret tip, Palawan. Palawan is an island province of the Philippines about 600 kilometers west. There are no active volcanoes on Palawan. Palawan is also not on the Pacific Ring of Fire, so earthquakes on Palawan are rare and usually of low intensity. Palawan is also relatively protected far in the west and is hardly hit by typhoons. However, during the typhoon season from June to November, there can also be heavy rainfall and stormy conditions on Palawan. Incredible, I can hear you saying, but stop. Let me address a very important point: crime. In both countries, petty crime like pickpocketing and scams, especially in tourist areas, is a common problem. Overpriced taxis or tuk-tuks, counterfeit goods or other deceptions. A bit of common sense never hurts, right? Especially don't get into heated discussions if you notice something. If the police shows up, most things are usually settled in the local language, but here again the Philippines have the language advantage. And most importantly, remember to always be polite, especially to the local police. So let's talk about murder and manslaughter. In Thailand, the rate of violent crime compared to many other countries is relatively low. Most acts of violence are either within certain communities or associated with domestic violence, gang conflicts or drug trafficking. Violent crimes against tourists are not completely ruled out, but they are not frequent and usually occur in connection with robbery or other criminal activities. Thailand is generally known as a safe travel destination. The situation in the Philippines is more complicated, especially in areas with political conflicts like in parts of Mindanao, as well as in some urban centers. The risk of violent acts, including murder, is higher. The high rate of violent crime in these areas is often linked to factors such as poverty, political unrest, and a significant drug problem. For tourists in the Philippines, the risk of becoming a victim of serious violent crime is generally low. However, it should be noted that tourists and foreigners should generally stay away from known risk areas. And another very visible difference is the ubiquitous presence of armed security personnel in the Philippines compared to Thailand, where these guards are completely absent. In the Philippines, the public carrying of firearms by security forces is more common and is seen as a deterrent against crime. In Thailand, strict gun laws prevail and the public handling of firearms, especially by private security services, is more tightly regulated. The higher visibility of weapons in the Philippines also reflects the response to political unrest and a higher perceived rate of crime, especially in urban areas. One other important aspect is general traffic safety. Thailand has one of the highest rates of traffic accidents worldwide, which can be a considerable risk for travelers. In the Philippines, traffic conditions are also challenging, but the accident rate is overall lower than in Thailand. And finally, very briefly, the drug policy in both countries is very strict, with harsh penalties for possession and trafficking, so stay away from it. Based on the raw numbers and the comfort factor regarding security personnel, Thailand wins in the safety category. And also for those who absolutely must smoke that green plant, Thailand has just legalized it, while in the Philippines you could end up in jail for it. And now for what is surely the most important topic for some of you: finding love. In both countries, you will notice that your market value is higher than in your home country. In both Thailand and the Philippines, you're more likely to date a younger, attractive woman, someone who back home you either wouldn't dare approach or who simply wouldn't be interested in you. But here in the Philippines, you can practically step off the plane and immediately start flirting in English with the Filipinas. Here you can just head off into the deepest provinces and the ladies still speak English. In Thailand it's different. You'll find that the women you come in contact with are mostly from tourist areas because that's where English is spoken. But just approaching a girl in the neighboring town or in the Thai provinces, that's usually a no-go. And especially if you're of Christian faith and looking for a partner with the same belief, there are few alternatives to the Philippines in Asia. If love is your priority and you want to avoid language barriers and cultural differences, the Philippines is your paradise. As an older man who doesn't want to learn a new language or dive into a completely new culture, stick with the Philippines. Although there are people who speak English in Thailand, they are mostly in tourist hotspot, and that might not be the best choice for a long-term relationship. Wow, so much information. I hope I was able to provide you with at least one or two food for thought. 15 years ago, I started looking around and then I chose Southeast Asia. why the rest of the world was not an option perhaps in a future video. In Southeast Asia, Thailand was ruled out for me solely because of the language barrier. I want to get to know the country and its people, and that's only possible in personal conversations. So the same applies to Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. And the Islamic influence in countries like Indonesia, Malaysia or Brunei makes them too risky for me as a non-Muslim. Who knows how Islam will develop in the next 10 or 20 years? So in Southeast Asia, only one country was left for me, the Philippines, and I do not regret it to this day. And if I have piqued your interest, I hope to welcome you here soon as a guest, a tourist or perhaps an expat. Until then, goodbye from me from Cebu.